Hi guys, this is Nia and today I will be painting something very quick and easy. This is perfect for first timers or a quick doodle just to paint without putting too much effort at all. This will be a two-part video again with a slightly more complex version of the same doodle for next week's video. I'm not even going to draw this first. I will just be repeating the exact same things as it is a repetitive doodle or a pattern, so you have lots of time to digest or even paint along. With that said, let's begin to paint. So these are the only two colors I'm going to use. Super simple, it's only a mix of permanent green and aureolin yellow to brighten up the green. If the paint you have is too cool in terms of the temperature of the green, you can also add a warm tone. Like here I have spare orange paint, so I'm just going to take the tiniest bit, or you can even use a little bit of red just to warm up the green. I want to mix quite a bit on my palette since that's the only color I'm going to be using, and I want quite a thin consistency, something that will glide fast and easy. So what I'm going to create here is just basically a donut shape, a large circle with a white negative space in the middle of it. The circles can be different sizes. It can also be a bit oval. I actually prefer it to not be uniform at all. It really doesn't matter because each kiwi fruit is different, and I'm just going to keep repeating this until I'm done with my whole page. If you can already visualize the shape in your mind, you can just paint it straight away, but there are ways to go about this if approximating size and shapes isn't something you're too comfortable with, and that's to either draw out the large circle first or the small circle first as a point of reference to the rest of the painting. And once you have those two distinguished, you can just fill in the rest of the space. So in this one, as you can tell, I started out by drawing out the smaller circle, and for the next one I'm going to show you how I would go about it if I painted the larger circle first and then the center. As you can probably tell, both methods act the same way. It just depends on which one would be a better point of reference for you to paint first. And as I fill in the green area, I'd like to also check the overall circle if the center is at the middle or the center, or if it's closer to one of the sides, maybe I would add a little bit more green towards the outside of the kiwi slice. I want to also note that the white area of the kiwi is usually weirdly shaped, so I really like to randomize the shapes a bit at the center to make it a little bit more natural looking. For the composition, it's basically up to you in the end. I'm just showing you my method of how I paint this, but you can paint it according to your needs. I got comments in one of my doodle videos that the doodles will look great as bullet journal themes, and this is definitely one of those easy to paint themes that you can quickly create. So if you're into bullet journaling, you can use this to decorate your pages. I'm sure by now you get the overall way of how I paint the space shape, so I'm just going to double the speed to get this video going, but if you want to slow this down still, there is a YouTube option in the settings to slow down the speed. Once you're done with all of the base colors, you want to make sure that the paint is completely dry before we move on to the next step. So if you remember, you can either go to the first kiwi that you painted and paint in the same order, or you can use a hairdryer to dry the base color before moving on to this step. I'm going to use the same color mix but with a thicker consistency, which means a little bit more paint than water compared to the previous mix, and I'm going to use the tip of my brush to paint lines all around the white part of the kiwi slice. I want each line to surround the kiwi vertically, and I'm randomizing the length of the lines. Try to paint them in a radial motion by moving the angle of your brush as I'm doing right here. This is a bit tough if you're new to watercolors because some angles might not be comfortable for your hands, but it is good practice. However, there's another option, and that would be to rotate the sketchbook or the paper to help you avoid getting into those uncomfortable hand positions. Hopefully, by watching the video, you get an idea of how dark the green is compared to the base layer. I'm not trying to make a huge contrast, but just subtle lines. So that's it for this step. All you have to do now is repeat this for the rest of the kiwi slices, whether it be with the first method of moving your hands in different angles for practice, or rotating the paper or sketchbook to suit the position of your hands. After you've painted all of the lines, you can go back to the previous slices, and if you feel like there's a gap in the lines or the colors faded a little bit too much after it dries, you can repaint some of the lines again to get better definition. Now that I'm completely done with the painting portion of this doodle, I'm going to take my thinnest liner pen and outline all of the slices. I'm using here the Snowman brand and it's waterproof. I would definitely recommend using waterproof pens just in case you want to add additional elements or repaint some parts after outlining. It's much safer as we're working with a wet medium. I want to also make sure that all the previous layers of paint are completely dry, so I'm using my hair dryer here to speed up the drying process. The pen would definitely bleed if you try to draw on wet paper, even though it's waterproof, because it's technically still wet ink on a wet surface, so just be mindful of that. I personally like having thin lines, but you can use whatever you have available at home. Mine is a 0.05 point pen. If yours is thicker, the outline will just look a bit more darker and defined. I'm going to line the slices slowly, and it's okay if my hands aren't creating such straight lines. I actually like the slightly jagged lines along with the different thickness and the slight gaps in between the lines. I find that this looks more handmade, and a lot of times when I'm drawing or painting, I don't mind having little bits of mistakes. I think that it has a certain charm that makes it look more handmade instead of it being too perfect. And sometimes it can also make it look like a digital painting instead. So next here, I'm drawing out the seeds, and for this, I'm drawing out quick teardrop shapes or ovals, and I want to draw them close together near the white area. And as I get to the outer part of the kiwi, I'm going to disperse the seeds so it looks like it's slowly disappearing. And I like to start with just the line of seeds lining the white area, and after that I'm going to build on the rest. I forgot to mention that I'm drawing the ovals or the teardrop shapes facing the center, just like the lines. So if that's a bit difficult, you may also rotate the paper or the sketchbook like before and use the lines as point of reference for the seeds. So those are basically all of the steps. It was super simple, and I'm just going to repeat this for the rest of the kiwi slices. And that's it. This is what it looks like. This was a very quick and simple exercise or doodle for you to create. Next week I will be uploading the painting at the other side of the page, which has more details and a few more steps to complete, but still very fun and doable to do. So if you've tried this one and you're interested in the more complex version, don't forget to check it out next week. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching till the end. Have a good day or night depending on where you are from, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye!